I'm going to go over how to do the results of your soil jar. So you need your jar, and this one is mostly settled. So even though it's brown at the top, don't worry about it. You can see that most of the soil has settled to the bottom. This brown is just a few particles of clay that just won't settle. You need your data sheet and a ruler. So if you have a ruler like this, that's great. If you need to cut out the ruler here, that's fine as well. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to measure the total amount of your soil. So I already did my measurements earlier, but you're going to measure from the bottom up, but be careful. You'll notice my ruler here doesn't start at 0 at the very, very bottom. It's like just a tiny bit up. So make sure you check your ruler and make sure that you notice that. Also, one of the errors in this bottle is it has these little lips here, which is not going to make my results particularly accurate. It's going to make my sand amount seem a little bit higher than it is in that soil. But we know that it's not a perfect device, but it'll give us pretty good results, and so you can learn how the process is done. Okay, so my total amount here, and I measured it earlier, my total amount is 7 centimeters, but we're doing millimeters for much more precision, so it's 70 millimeters. So I'm gonna write that down on my chart. Then my sand, I'm gonna measure my sand from the bottom. And when I measured it earlier, it was just above the 2 centimeters. It was actually 21 millimeters. And then my silt, when I measured it earlier, was 37 millimeters. And then my clay layer is the smallest here at 12 millimeters. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna do the math. So, let me put my camera overhead. And your height of your soil is 100% of the soil. It's not quite 100% because we still have some suspended solids in that brown water that just won't settle. But for our purposes today, we'll say it's 100% of the settled soil. Now you're going to take 21 or whatever your number is. Your number should not be mine. Don't turn in my numbers because they should be different. So I'm going to take 21, I'm going to divide it by 70 times 100, and it tells you right here what to do in these directions. And I'm going to get 30% sand. Silt is 37 divided by 70, and I'm going to get 53% silt. And then 12 divided by 70 times 100 is 17%. And double check your numbers, they should add up to 100%. Now we're going to use the USDA chart. And so I have 30% sand. So I'm going to find my 30% sand. I'm going to put a little dot here. I have 53% silt. So 53 is like right about here between the 50 and the 60 on silt. And then my clay is at 12%. So it's going to be like right about here. Now I want to draw where they all sort of meet. So this line will kind of come down like this. This one will come up like that. And this one will come across like so. So let me double check because they should sort of all converge around the same place, but I might have it a slight bit off because when you're in between numbers, it's harder to get when they don't follow these exact lines of 30, 35, 40. So it looks like here they are converging into silt loam. So this would be from the jar test, the type of clay that, or the type of soil that I have in that garden plot. Now, when I look at my jar, part of it is very difficult to tell the boundary between sand and silt in this jar. So there is error in this method, but I do want you to understand the method. It might be a little bit different than the ball and the ribbon test. But again, because we're not experts, I have some error in the type of bottle I used and the fact that the clay didn't completely settle. But it can give you an approximate amount of approximate reading of what your soil texture is. All right, so that's how you do this lab.